And he happened to be coming out of his bedroom. He came upstairs and he heard footsteps and nobody was here. So he went back downstairs. And when he went down, he happened to look and he seen this black, he described it as something that wasn't, or how did he say it? I said, I don't even know where you came up with that word, organically natural. And he said it flashed and then it went away.
While trying to recover from multiple surgeries over nearly a decade, a woman and her family are tormented by dark entities that invade their home, seemingly out of nowhere. After asking multiple paranormal investigators and a priest to help her clear her dwelling of these unexplained and terrifying entities, will she and her family be freed, or will they continue to be prisoners in their own home? This is the untold story of the Rearick family haunting in Pennsylvania, and it truly is a terrifying haunting indeed. So grab a drink or a snack or both and prepare to get scared. And I wouldn't recommend watching or listening to this in the dark unless you like a challenge. The house at the edge of the forest had stood for decades, its weathered facade blending seamlessly with the quiet town of Montandon. From the outside, it seemed no different from any other home. A modest structure with a well-kept yard and windows that reflected the golden hues of dusk. But those who passed by in the dead of night often swore that they felt something watching them. The air around the property seemed heavier, colder, as if the house itself held secrets it refused to share. For the Rearick family, it was a dream come true, a step up from the cramped mobile home where they had spent years scraping by. Todd and Jacinda Rearick had worked tirelessly to make it theirs, pouring love and labor into every corner. But no amount of paint or polish could erase the sense of unease that seemed to linger just beneath the surface. It was subtle at first, the way the shadows in the hallway stretched longer than they should, or how certain rooms always felt a few degrees colder, no matter the season. By the time they realized that their sanctuary had become a prison, it was too late. This is not a story of flickering lights or misplaced keys. It is a story of something older, darker, and far more insidious. A force that thrived on fear and despair, feeding on the cracks of the Rearick's lives until it threatened to consume them entirely. The events that unfolded within those walls would forever mark them, leaving scars that no amount of time could fully heal. And to think it all began with one small light. The small town of Montandon, in the heart of Pennsylvania, a place where life ambled quietly through the sunlit afternoons and starry nights. The Rearick family, Jacinda and her husband Todd, and their 20-year-old son Justin, had called it home for nearly 14 years. Their modest 3-bedroom house was tucked at the edge of a forest, a place where shadows seemed to linger just a little bit too long. Montandon was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, a tight-knit community bound by shared traditions and familiarity. The grocery clerk knew which brand of coffee you liked before you asked, and neighbors always waved from their porches. It was a place that felt safe, ordinary even, which made the events that unfolded within the Rearick household all the more chilling. Jacinda was in recovery from major back surgery, the aftermath of years of hard work and determination catching up to her body. The procedure had been grueling, meant to repair herniated discs, but it left her with more pain than relief. Her days were now filled with restless idleness, an unfamiliar state for someone so used to motion. She spent much of her time in the living room, gazing out at the trees that bordered their yard, their leaves whispering with secrets in the breeze. Her husband Todd, a repairman at a local brewery, had taken on the dual role of caregiver and provider, his demeanor oscillating between steadfast support and quiet exhaustion. Todd was a practical man, his faith rooted in what he could see and fix with his hands. He tried to assure Jacinda with humor and routine, though he could see the toll her recovery was taking on her spirit. Justin, fresh from high school and nursing a shoulder injury from a summer mishap, found himself housebound as well. The injury had sidelined his plans to work full-time at the local hardware store, leaving him with hours to fill and a growing sense of frustration. He spent his days flipping through old magazines, scrolling aimlessly on his phone, and helping his mother as much as his limited mobility allowed. The first sign came in the form of light. Jacinda, leafing through photographs of Justin's graduation, noticed something peculiar. Small, luminous orbs scattered the images. Some glowed a soft white, others a spectral purple. They hovered in the corners, barely visible, yet unmistakably present. At first she thought it was a trick of light, but as she flipped through more photos, the pattern persisted. Jacinda's heart leapt at the thought that these could be her parents, long gone, but never forgotten. Their presence, if real, was a comfort, a balm against the isolating monotony of her recovery. "Look at this, Todd," she said one morning, holding a photograph up to the light. "These orbs, they're in every picture. Don't you think it's strange?" Todd glanced over, his expression a mix of amusement and exasperation. "Camera flares," he said, brushing it off. "You're overthinking it." He kissed her on the forehead and then left for work, leaving Jacinda alone with her thoughts. But Jacinda couldn't let it go. She began documenting the orbs obsessively, taking picture after picture, each new snapshot only deepening her conviction. The orbs appeared in the kitchen, the hallway, even her bedroom. Some seemed to shimmer with a faint inner light, their edges blurring like tiny stars caught on film. As the days turned into weeks, the orbs became more active. Jacinda began noticing subtle movements within the shimmering lights. They seemed to drift closer when she was alone, as if trying to communicate something just beyond the edge of her perception. Occasionally, she would hear faint whispers accompanying their presence, indecipherable but undeniably there. The whispers became louder over time, escalating into fragmented phrases that would flit away just as she tried to focus on them. But the house held more than just playful flickers of light. There was a weight in the air, a suffocating heaviness that seemed to press down on her chest. She felt it most acutely within the quiet hours of the night, when the world outside fell silent and the shadows within seemed to grow restless. The sound of creaking floorboards, faint knocking at odd hours, and sudden cold drafts became a nightly occurrence. The temperature would drop dramatically in certain rooms, and the family's pets, a loyal dog, and 2 skittish cats, would refuse to enter those spaces. One evening, while Justin lay in the living room, he heard it. The distinct sound of footsteps above him, heavy and deliberate. They moved across the ceiling, each step a dagger of dread stabbing into his mind. His parents weren't home, and the house should have been silent. "Mom, Dad," he called out, his voice trembling. There was no response. When he mustered the courage to investigate, he found nothing. The doors were locked, the lights off, yet the sense of unease lingered, settling deep into his bones. "I heard footsteps," he told his mother the next morning. "Someone was in the house." Jacinda's eyes widened. "It's the shadow," she whispered. "I've seen it too." Justin's skepticism melted into fear. He dismissed his mother's tales of orbs and presences, chalking them up to the side effects of medication or the imagination of a mind left idle for too long. But now the reality of her words clawed at him. The sightings grew bolder. A pool table in the basement, untouched for weeks, suddenly erupted into sound. The sharp crack of billiard balls breaking echoed throughout the house. When Justin went to investigate, he saw the balls scattered as if a game had been interrupted mid-play. Then there was the shadow, a dark, formless silhouette that loomed in the corner of his vision, its presence oppressive and consuming. Though it had no discernible features, he felt it staring into him, peeling back the layers of his mind to expose his deepest fears. The entity then began to rush at him, but before another scream could erupt from his mouth, almost as if in the blink of an eye, it vanished.
The room, his bedroom was off to the side. We had a pool table down there in the bar, so we hung out there all the time. That's where we lived. And he happened to be coming out of his bedroom. He came upstairs and he heard footsteps and nobody was here. So he went back downstairs and he heard the footsteps again, so he came back up, and then he heard the pool table balls break downstairs. And when he went down, he happened to look and he seen this black, he described it as something that wasn't, or how did he say it? I said, I don't even know where you came up with that word, organically natural. And he said it flashed and then it went away. And then he finally came to me. At that time, he had graduated from high school and he was working at a local hardware store. And he had came to me, he's like, "Mom, I finally believe you." And I was just so happy that somebody was finally, on the same page with me.
Jacinda's paintings, once her escape, began to betray her. One night, as she gazed at a completed piece, she saw the colors shifting, melting as if consumed by an unseen force. The patterns twisted unnaturally, forming faces and eyes that seemed to watch her with malevolence. A sharp pain lanced through her head, and she collapsed, gasping for air. Along with these more intense manifestations of something evil, the family, along with terrible sleep within the home due to almost constant feelings of anxiety, began to experience something else as well: lapses in time. In one instance, Jacinda had been laying in bed one moment, and almost as if waking up from a dream, she found herself at the top of the stairs, ready to step and descend into the basement. A move that, if it had gone wrong, would have led to even more catastrophic pain and injury, given her state of health. One night, Jacinda finally broke. "It's the house," she sobbed to Todd. "It's trying to kill us." Todd's patience wore thin. "You're stressed," he said, his voice laced with frustration. "You're recovering from surgery, and you're letting your mind run wild." But even he couldn't ignore the signs forever. One night, during a rare family dinner, Todd clutched his chest, his face contorting in pain. His skin turned ashen, his breaths shallow and labored. They rushed him to the emergency room, but the tests would reveal nothing. Yet Todd's near collapse left an indelible mark on the family, a lingering sense that the house was exacting its toll on each of them. Desperate for answers, Jacinda reached out to the Central Pennsylvania Paranormal Research Association, a team led by two psychics named Christine and Liz. After speaking with them, they would soon arrive at the house. Upon stepping inside, Christine's face would darken. "There's a presence here," she said. "It's ancient, and it's angry." Prior to arriving at the home, the team's investigation had unearthed a chilling history. It was their belief, alongside their research, that centuries ago, a group of Eastern European travelers had camped on the property, performing rituals that had opened a gateway to something dark. The presence that now haunted the Rearick family was no benign spirit, but a demonic force, one that was drawn to the house by the vulnerabilities of its inhabitants. "It's attached itself to you," Christine told Jacinda. "Your illness made you an easy target, and now it's feeding on your family's fear and pain." In an attempt to free the family, the team would conduct a cleansing of the home. As they got underway, their prayers began to fill the house with light and sound. But as this happened, the air seemed to shiver as the entity began to fight back, its rage palpable. Shadows thickened and writhed, taking on grotesque shapes that lunged at the investigators before dissolving into nothingness. The furniture creaked ominously, and objects flew from shelves with violent force. Towards the tail end of the cleansing ritual, a deafening silence fell over the room, like that of snow falling within a forest. The entity then let out one last burst of furious energy. This burst shook the house to its foundation, with windows and doors shuddering in its vibration. Following this display of power, however, a calm descended. The oppressive weight seemed to be lifted. The shadows receded, and for the first time in months, the house felt like a home again. In the aftermath, the Rearicks began to heal, their bond stronger for having faced the darkness together. Todd, once skeptical, now spoke with quiet reverence of the ordeal. "There are things we don't understand," he admitted, "but that doesn't mean that they aren't real." Jacinda, though still scarred by the experience, found solace in the belief that her parents had been watching over her all along, their love a shield against the malevolent force that had invaded their lives. As she stood at the edge of the forest one evening, gazing up at the stars, she whispered a quiet thank you to the spirits that she hoped were still near. And in the silence that followed, she felt an embrace, a warm and reassuring one, like the arms of a mother and father who would always protect their child. Months later, life in the Rearick household had found a semblance of normalcy. The memories of their harrowing experience lingered, but so did a renewed sense of gratitude and strength. Their story remained a cautionary tale in the community, whispered over cups of coffee and told in hushed tones by neighbors. For the Rearicks, it was a reminder of the thin veil that separates the seen from the unseen. Though they thought it was the end of their ordeal, it was unfortunately not the case for them. The months following the cleansing seemed to just be a respite from the chaos, for it would resume with horrendous vigor. And it seemed to further pursue Jacinda, perhaps believing her to be the weakest link of the family due to her health. The family tried cleansings from priests, from paranormal groups, but nothing seemed to work. Jacinda, through reaching out for help, would hear from a psychic that it wasn't just one entity that haunted her and her family, that it was multiple, 4 to be exact, that these entities were indeed ancient, that they were demons. Demons who had been summoned through various rituals many moons ago, and that haunted the land itself, but had attached themselves to her due to her vulnerable state, feeding off of her fear, anxiety, and ultimately her life force. This was almost identical to the theory the Central Pennsylvania Paranormal Research Association team had as well. More strange and scary manifestations would take place over the years. All the trees and vegetation surrounding the home would die. Distortions in time would continue to take place. Their nightmares would bleed over into daymares as the shadows would contort and twist, morphing into non-organic monstrosities before their very eyes, before then dissipating into nothing. What makes this all the more disturbing is that through my research on this case, I believe the family still lives there and continues to deal with these dark and horrendous entities. The last interview I could find with Jacinda was with the Grave Talks podcast, which I'll link below, and that was posted in 2019. It's also where the beginning audio segment came from. It really is a fascinating interview, and I highly recommend that you go check it out. And I would also like to thank Tony from Real Ghost Stories Online and the Grave Talks podcast for allowing me to use that segment. The thought of being so vulnerable, like following a surgery, or in this case, surgeries, and having to deal with spiritual manifestations on top of physical pain and mental turmoil as a result of both, is just harrowing to try and fathom. I really have to say that Jacinda truly seems to be a strong-willed person, and I pray that wherever her and her family are now, whether it's still in the same home or not, that they've found peace, albeit that doesn't seem to be the case based off of my research. But wishing someone the best certainly never did any harm. There's a lot of small details in this case as well, but I tried my best to touch on major points. And as always, I recommend you dive into your own research if you'd like to know more. If you liked this episode, please give it a like, subscribe with notifications on, and please share it around, whether it's with a friend or online. Every little bit helps me tremendously. As many of you know, I've been sick recently. I'm sorry for the wait, but there's certainly many more episodes coming very soon, and I truly appreciate your patience with that. I would also really be grateful if you checked out my new podcast, which is called The Ghost in Me. It's on every major podcast platform, as well as YouTube, which I'll link below. We have 3 episodes up and are doing weekly uploads with that show as well. So if you enjoy deep dives into high strangeness and more, come join me there too. If you'd like to support the channel directly, please check out my store linked here, where you can pick up merchandise, as well as copies of my books, which are also available on Amazon. The 3rd book is going to be coming very soon. Or you can click join to become a YouTube member, or visit patreon.com/mystery archives if you would like to watch all my content ad-free, as well as get some behind-the-scenes content. Aside from that, guys, please take care of yourselves. Stay happy and stay healthy. As always, this has been Cody here at Mystery Archives. Remember to stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Check out another episode now up next, or check out one of my playlists here. Thanks for watching.